Krishna.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dade Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dade Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dade Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Shata Śiśumāra Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jaya Jam Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Shata Śiśumāra Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jaya Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jaya Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jaya Prem Sikaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinda Ki Jai, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, so This morning we were reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 23, the Śiśumāra Planetary System, Text 4. So, I guess what we've been doing is, it's prose, so I should just chant it myself and then read it. Okay. Ke Chennai Taj Jyotir Anikam Śiśumāra Samsthanena Bhagavato Vasudevasya Yogadharanayam Anuvanaryanti. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Right. This great machine, consisting of the stars and planets, resembles the form of a Śiśumāra, dolphin, in the water. It is sometimes considered an incarnation of Krishna, Vasudeva. Great yogis meditate upon Vasudeva in this form because it is actually visible. Purport. Transcendentalists such as yogis whose minds cannot accommodate the form of the Lord prefer to visualize something very great, such as the Virat Purusha. Therefore, some yogis contemplate this imaginary Śiśumāra to be swimming in the sky the way a dolphin swims in water. They meditate upon it as the Virat Rupa, the gigantic form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 5. This form of the Śiśumāra has its head downward and its body coiled. On the end of its tail is the planet of Dhruva. On the body of its tail are the planets of the demigods, Prajapati, Agni, Indra, and Dharma. And at the base of its tail are the planets of the demigods, Datta and Vidatta. Where the hips might be on the Śiśumāra are the 7 saintly sages like Vishishta and Angira. The coiled body of the Śiśumāra-cakra turns toward its right side, on which the 14 constellations from Abhijit to Punarvasu are located. On its left side are the 14 stars from Pushya to Uttarashada. Thus, its body is balanced because its sides are occupied by an equal number of stars. On the back of the Śiśumāra is the group of stars known as Ajaviti, and on its abdomen is the Ganges that flows in the sky, the Milky Way. 6. On the right and left sides of where the loins might be on the Śiśumāra-cakra are the stars named Punarvasu and Pushya. Ardya and Ashlesha are on its right and left feet. Abhijit and Uttarashada are on its right and left nostrils. Shravana and Purvashada are at its right and left eyes, and Dhanishta and Mula are on its right and left ears. The 8 stars from Magha to Anuradha, which mark the southern course, are on the ribs of the left of its body. And on the 8 stars from Mrigashirsha to Purvabhadra, which mark the northern course, are on the ribs on the right side. Shatabisha and Jeshta are on the right and left shoulders. 7. On the upper chin of the Śiśumāra is Agasti, on its lower chin Yamaraj, on its mouth Mars, on its genitals Saturn, on the back of its neck Jupiter, on its chest the Sun, and within the core of its heart Narayan. Within its mind is the moon. On its navel Venus, and on its breast the Ashvini Kumaras. Within its life air, which is known as Pranapana, is Mercury. On its neck is Rahu. All over its body are comets, and in its pores are the numerous stars. My dear King, the body of the Śiśumāra, as thus described, should be considered the external form of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Morning, noon, and evening one should silently observe the form of the Lord as the Śiśumāra-cakra and worship him with this mantra. O Lord, who has assumed the form of time, O resting place of all the planets, moving in different orbits, O Master of the demigods, of all demigods, O Supreme Person, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and meditate upon you. So, can you pass a mic to Tyler? Can you read this next one, Tyler? the verse and the purport, please.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah, does someone want to hand them their phone?
So, translation.
The body of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, which forms the Śiśumāra-cakra, is the resting place of all the demigods and all the stars and planets. One who chants this mantra to worship that Supreme Person 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, will surely be freed from all sinful reactions. If one simply offers his obeisances to this form or remembers this form 3 times a day, all his recent sinful activities will be destroyed. Purport. Summarizing the entire description of the planetary systems of the universe, Srila Vishnu says that one who is able to meditate upon this arrangement as the Virat Rupa or Vishvarupa, the external body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worship him 3 times a day by meditation, will always be free from all sinful reactions. Vishwanath Chartavaki Thakur estimates that Dhruvaloka, the pole star, is 3,800,000 yojanas above the sun. Above Dhruvaloka by 10 million yojanas is Maharloka. Above Maharloka by 20 million yojanas is Janaloka. Above Janaloka by 80 million yojanas is Tapaloka. And above Tapaloka by 120 million yojanas is Satyaloka. Thus, the distance from the sun to Satyaloka is 233,800,000 yojanas, or 1,870,400,000 miles. The Vaikuta planets begin 26,200,000 yojanas, 209,600,000 miles above Satyaloka. Thus, the Vishnu Purana describes that the covering of the universe is 260 million yojanas, 2,080,000,000 miles away from the sun. The distance from the sun to the earth is 100,000 yojanas, and below the earth by 70,000 yojanas are the 7 lower planetary systems, called Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patatala. Below these lower planets by 30,000 yojanas, Sheshanaga is lying on the Garbhodaka ocean. That ocean is 249,800,000 yojanas deep. Thus, the total diameter of the universe is approximately 500 million yojanas, or 4 billion miles. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 5th canto, 23rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Śiśumāra Planetary Systems. Thank you, Balaram. Haribol.
So can you keep on going?
Okay.
Please.
Chapter 24?
Yeah.
In summary?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, chapter 24, Srimad Bhagavatam, the subterranean heavenly planets. This chapter describes the planet Rahu, which is 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles below the sun. It also describes Atala and the other lower planetary systems. Rahu is situated below the sun and moon. It is between these 2 planets and the earth. When Rahu conceals the sun and moon, eclipses occur, either total or partial, depending on whether Rahu moves in a straight or curvy way. Below Rahu by another 1 million yojanas are the planets of the Siddhas, Karanas, and Vijyaharas. And below these are the planets such as Yakshaloka and Rakshaloka. Below these planets is the earth, and 70,000 yojanas below the earth are the lower planetary systems, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Demons and Rakshaks live in these lower planetary systems with their wives and children, always engaged in sense gratification and not fearing their next births. The sunshine does not reach these planets, but they are illuminated by jewels fixed upon the hoods of snakes. Because of these shining gems, there is practically no darkness. Those living in these planets do not become old or diseased, and they are not afraid of death from any cause but the time factor, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the planet Atala, the yawning of a demon has produced 3 kinds of women, called Svarini, independent, Kamini, lusty, and Pamshkali, very easily subdued by men. Below Atala is the planet Vitala, wherein Lord Shiva and his wife Gauri reside. Because of their presence, a kind of gold is produced called Hataka. Below Vitala is the planet Sutala, and above the abode of Bali Maharaj, the most fortunate king. Bali Maharaj was favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev because of his intense devotional service. The Lord went to the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj and begged him for 3 paces of land, and on this plea the Lord took from him all his possessions. When Bali Maharaj agreed to this, the Lord was very pleased, and therefore the Lord serves as his doorkeeper. The description of Bali Maharaj appears in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead offers a devotee material happiness, this is not his real favor. The demigods, who are very puffed up by their material opulence, pray to the Lord only for material happiness, not knowing anything better. Devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, however, do not want material happiness. Not to speak of material happiness, they do not even want liberation from material bondage, although one can achieve this liberation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, even with improper pronunciation. Below Sutala is the planet Talatala, the abode of the demon Maya. This demon is always materially happy because he is favored by Lord Shiva, but he cannot achieve spiritual happiness at any time. Below Talatala is the planet Mahatala, where there are many snakes with hundreds of thousands of hoods. Below Mahatala is Rasatala, and below that is Patala, where the serpent Vasuki lives with his associates. Tribal.
So there's a lot going on. So, well, continue text 1. I think I could. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, some historians, the speakers of the Puranas, say that 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles below the sun, is the planet known as Rahu, which moves like one of the stars. The presiding deity of that planet, who is the son of Simhika, is the most abominable of all asuras. But although he is completely unfit to assume the position of a demigod or planetary deity, he has achieved that position by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Later I shall speak further about him." 2. The sun globe, which is a source of heat, extends for 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles. The moon extends for 20,000 yojanas, 160,000 miles. And Rahu extends for 30,000 yojanas, 240,000 miles. Formerly, when nectar was being distributed, Rahu tried to create dissension between the sun and moon by interposing himself between them. Rahu is inimical toward both the sun and the moon, and therefore he always tries to cover the sunshine and moonshine on the dark moon day and full moon night. Purport. As stated herein, the sun extends for 10,000 yojanas, and the moon extends for twice that, or 20,000 yojanas. The word Dvadasha should be understood to mean twice as much as 10 or 20. In the opinion of Vijayadwaja, who's a commentator in the Bhagavatam, the extent of Rahu should be twice that of the moon, or 40,000 yojanas. However, to reconcile this apparent contradiction to the text of the Bhagavatam, Vijayadwaja cites the following quotation concerning Rahu. Rahu Soma Ravi Nam Tu Mandala Dvi Gunotitam. This means that Rahu is twice as large as the moon, which is twice as large as the sun. This is the conclusion of the commentator Vijayadwaja. 3. After hearing from the sun and moon demigods about Rahu's attack, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu engages his disc, known as the Śiśumāra-cakra, to protect them. The Śiśumāra-cakra is the Lord's most beloved devotee and is favored by the Lord. The intense heat of its effulgence, meant for killing non-Vaishnavas, is unbearable to Rahu, and he therefore flees in fear of it. During the time Rahu disturbs the sun or moon, there occurs what people commonly know as an eclipse. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is always a protector of his devotees, who are also known as demigods. The controlling demigods are most obedient to Lord Vishnu, although they also want material sense enjoyment, and that is why they are called demigods, or almost godly. Although Rahu attempts to attack both the sun and moon, they are protected by Lord Vishnu. Being afraid of Lord Vishnu's chakra, Rahu cannot stay in front of the sun or moon for more than a muhurt, 48 minutes. The phenomenon that occurs when Rahu blocks the light of the sun or moon is called an eclipse. The attempt of the scientists of this earth to go to the moon is as demoniac as Rahu's attack. Of course, their attempts will be failures because no one can enter the moon or sun so easily. Like the attack of Rahu, such attempts will certainly be failures. Om Ganatividandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshul and Militan Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Kum Karidvachalam Pangam Langaite Gidim Yakripadam Hambande Shigurun Dinitarinam Bancha Kapadi Bishta Kripasindabe Vicha Patitanam Pavani Bio Vaishnavi Bio Maha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Vishnu is the protector of his devotees, who are known as demigods. And the demigods, Srila Prabhupada says, are most obedient to Lord Vishnu, despite them having material desires. So they are devotees who have mixed desires. They're very responsible, they're very dutiful, generally, but they have mixed desires. But still, Krishna is protecting them. Now, of course, the best is just to have no other desire than to serve Krishna. But if one is not able to be, or one's not able to exist on that platform, or you could say be steady on that platform of not having material desires, then the second best is to have desires and serve Krishna. It means have other desires and still serve Krishna. And the worst is to just have material desires and just go for that. Because people who have desires other than desires for advancement in Krishna consciousness and serving Krishna, if they engage in the process of devotional service, then gradually they actually become better. They become closer to the goal. Hare Krishna. They become closer to the goal. But for those who just focus on their material desires, I mean, what do they become closer to? Huh? Maya. I mean, closer to an animal body, right? Soul going to an animal body. They become closer to the hellish planets, right? So in other words, they don't really make advancement. They don't make advancement. Like Ayur Hariti Vaipum Sam Udyam Astam Chadyanasau Tasyarte Yachino Nita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. That the rising and the setting of the sun decreases the life of everyone, besides those who hear the message of the all-good Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then someone will say, hey, well, the devotees, looks like their body's also getting old. I'm like, what do you mean? But that old age, and Srila Prabhupada said disease, this is all actually signs of just getting closer to Krishna, ultimately. I mean, if they're heading in that direction, if they're devotees. So, whereas the materialist, the rising and the setting of the sun, they don't really make advancement. They make practically no advancement. Because they're just focusing on worldly things and worldly duties, and then how are they supposed to make any real advancement? They don't. And aside from not making advancement, they actually digress. That's the problem. Or degrade themselves. So, therefore the Bhagavatam is saying that, okay, we may have material desires, and to find someone who doesn't have material desires, it's a very high mark actually. It's not so easy not to have no material desires. So therefore the Bhagavatam saying, if we have material desires, okay, that's not the best. That's not the best. We should understand that. It's a very important principle to understand. That having material desires is not first class. We should understand that and we should accept it. But if we do have it, then the Bhagavatam is saying, okay, still serve Krishna. Right? Akamo sarva kamo va moksha kama udadadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. That whether we are akama, we have no material desires, right? Akama, no material desires. Whether we're sarva kama, all material desires, or moksha kama, we're desiring liberation, we should tivrena bhakti yogena. We should engage intensely in the service of Krishna. That's what the Bhagavatam is saying. So in other words, the Bhagavatam's not saying, oh, you have material desires, you're out of the game. You're a loser. Step aside. Let the pure-hearted, no material desire devotees lead the way. They do lead the way, but we're supposed to be, for those of us who have material desire, we follow them. That's the idea. So in other words, there shouldn't be any need for some serious discouragement on the part of us having material desires. Of course, it could be discouraging and depressing and all that, but the difference between being discouraged in the mode of ignorance and the difference between being discouraged in Krishna consciousness is like night and day. So when one becomes discouraged and they're, you could say, in the mode of ignorance, or the mode of ignorance is pinching them, pinching their heart or their consciousness, inflicting what? Inflicting the bewilderment on them, yeah. Then one becomes discouraged and they think, oh, what's the use? I'll never become a devotee. I'll never reach the goal. I'll never surrender. Maybe I should just give up. And why am I trying? And it's much easier to be a materialist, and I'm just going to join the Kali Yuga circus. And right. It's too hard to be a devotee. So these are thoughts that are coming from a place of darkness and a place, a illogical place. It's not logical, these thoughts. And if someone actually, they may have those thoughts, but if someone acts on them and they give up Krishna consciousness on that basis, oh, it's too difficult, I can never do it, and oh, I'll never attain the goal, then that's really unfortunate. So it's discouragement in the mode of ignorance, whereas devotees may feel discouraged. I mean, we are humans, right? Last time we checked, right? We're humans. No reptilians here, right? I'm just joking. I don't subscribe to any of that. So just for the record.
There are humans from you.
Yeah, there's humans, right? From Yuma. So, but we may feel discouraged, and the Acharyas, they also are great Acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all these devotees, out of their humility, out of their deep Krishna consciousness, they feel, oh, I've wasted my life, right? Like you have Narottam Das Thakur, Hari Hari Vifale Janme Gainu, He's saying that I've wasted my life. I haven't served Radha and Krishna. I've got this human form of life. Goloker Premadan Harinam Sankirtan, the holy name is descending from the spiritual world. Goloker Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared, right? Dina Hina Yati Chilo Harinama Udarilo. He's appeared, Balaram Hoilo Nitai, with Nityananda Prabhu, who is Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Tirthamarsh, when he was living here, he would sometimes, when he would call me, he would say, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Balaram became Nitai. So, and they came and they delivered these Jagai Madai, Tara Sakshi Jagai Madai. What's the proof that they delivered, right? Tara Sakshi Jagai Madai. They delivered Jagai Madai. That's the proof. Delivering the most fallen. So the song goes on. What else does it say? Anyone want to look that up? Hari? Yeah. Okay, Ravi, you can look it up. But the Narottam Das Thakur, he's lamenting. He said, "I've wasted my life. I haven't served Radha and Krishna." So, to lament, to feel ourselves fallen, to feel ourselves insignificant, to feel that we wasted time, that's healthy, that's normal, that's natural, that's what devotees do. But then what do? Then they pray to Krishna. Krishna, please engage me in your service. Please bring me closer to you. They don't say, I've wasted my life. I haven't served Radha and Krishna. All right, well, let me keep on wasting my life. Or let me go, let me go do something else. Or let me turn to the material energy for my shelter, which the material energy is always enticing here, in different forms. There's so many forms of material energy, but here, I will give you shelter, I'll give you shelter, I'll provide you comfort, I'll provide you happiness, right? But as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, just a witch. Witches don't provide shelter. Thank you. So, okay, Brajendra Nandana Jay Shachi Sutta Hurlo say Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Lord Krishna, the son of the king of Vraj, became the son of Shachi. Lord Chaitanya and Balaram became Nitai. The holy name delivered all those souls who were lowly and wretched. The two sinners, Jagan Madai, are evidence of this. So the last verse. Ha ha Prabhu Nanda Sutta Vishabhanu Sutta Jutta Koruna Karahoy Ebara. O Lord Krishna, son of Nanda, accompanied by the daughter of Vrishabhanu, please be merciful to me now. Narottam Das says, O Lord, please do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet, for who is my beloved except for you? So in the beginning he is lamenting. He's saying, Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. Having obtained a human birth and having not worshipped Radha and Krishna, I have knowingly drunk poison. So he's lamenting, I wasted my life. And I've drunk poison. But at the end, he says, please be merciful to me now, accompanied by the daughter of Vrishabhanu. That's Srimati Radharani. Please be merciful to me now. Do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet, for who is my beloved except for you? So, it's okay to lament, but that lamentation has to be accompanied by a prayer for the mercy of Krishna. So that's an important point. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes. All right.
Thank you for a very nice class.
Thank you.
My question is the Śiśumāra visible like a constellation? Can that be perceived?
Does anybody have anyone see the Śiśumāra lately?
I don't know. Just there's constellations. And
well,
things.
from the description, I was actually just in that Avatar book that the BBT produced. There's one devotee, and they painted a picture. And it's one sage, he's meditating outside of a cave, and he's looking up and seeing the stars, and he's seeing the Śiśumāra, this dolphin. Means the shape, like, you know how the stars, yeah,
Right,
similar
right.
principle.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so that's from my understanding.
It says in the book. It says in
Yeah,
one of the,
Right in the verse, the yogis meditate because it's actually visible.
Nice.
yeah. You had your...
And I had a comment, if you don't, since nobody else. Just you're nicely sharing Narottam Das Thakur's, mode of lamentation and the acharyas. And this is a story Kirtiraj Prabhu told me, and I'd never heard it before, but it was a personal story, and I thought I'd share it. He was in LA, I think he was serving with the BBT, and Prabhupada would give darshans. He had like a darshan room, sort of, or a room they were using for that. And one day Kirtiraj was there, and a bit early, and Prabhupada came, and no one else was there, the way he told the story. And he said that Prabhupada looked at him and just said, "I wasted so much time." This is after Prabhupada had started the whole movement, And Kirtiraj, as a good disciple, was like, "No, Prabhupada, you did this, you did that," like trying to... And Prabhupada looked at him again. And anyway, it happened like 3 times, and the third time Kirtiraj didn't dare say a thing, but it was that mood,
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada, he actually asked by Yamuna Devi, "What's your favorite song?" And Srila Prabhupada quoted the song. And Yamuna Devi said that she saw Prabhupada sing this song a number of times, I think like 4 times, when Srila Prabhupada was playing the harmonium. And she was just saying how Prabhupada was so absorbed and, just so much ecstasy just seeing Srila Prabhupada, sing this song. And he would sing the song, he would sing a verse, and then he would sing it over a couple times, a few times, He would keep on singing the same. And you see those pictures of Srila Prabhupada when he's playing the harmonium and very concentrated face. About Srila Prabhupada's face, at the time, Giriraj Das Brahmachari, his uncle, came and to see Srila Prabhupada at Los Angeles, the temple. And he wanted to speak with Srila Prabhupada. He was a doctor. His uncle was a doctor. So he met with Srila Prabhupada, and he was talking to Srila Prabhupada about how he was very discouraged in the medical world. He thought there was a lot of cheating going on. And he was right. So, and Srila Prabhupada pretty much just listened to him for like 20, 30 minutes, and Prabhupada didn't say much. And then the conversation ended, and then his uncle left. Giriraj Das Brahmachari's uncle left. So then his uncle told him, he said, "You're a spiritual teacher." He said, "I've never seen a face like that, such a face." And he said, "I want to get a picture of him. So please give me a picture of him," and, such a powerful personality. Anyways, and about wasting time, there was, Tamal Krishna Goswami was saying that he was with Srila Prabhupada one time in his quarters in Los Angeles. And he said that Srila Prabhupada, he was about to go to take rest in the nighttime. And then Tamal Krishna Goswami said that Srila Prabhupada stood up on his bed with his blanket around him. And then he said, "Now I'm going to waste time." And then he just laid back down in his bed, and that was it. And then Tamal Krishna Goswami later, when he was telling it, he said, "I don't know why Prabhupada did it like that." He stood up on his bed with his blanket, and then he got. But he said, "Now I'm going to waste time." Which, anyways, of course, Prabhupada, he's reduced heavily his sleep, but this was his mood. Didn't like to waste time, and didn't waste time. But anyways, it was his particular mood. So I thought it was amusing. Yes, Vijay Prabhu.
A little book distribution pastime in in regard to Prabhupada's face when the devotee was distributing books. And he approached this man and showed the book to this man. The man said, I've drawn a picture of this person, Prabhupada. Big picture. He said, well, why? I have a daughter, she's not well mentally, but when she saw the picture of Prabhupada, she just loved that picture. And she asked her father, can you paint a picture of this person? And he did, and it was a huge picture, like 3 by 5 picture. It's in her house.
Talking about feet.
Picture face.
Face, not feet. 3 feet by 5 feet.
3 feet by 5. What did I say?
Yeah. You said 3 by 5.
Yeah, 3 by feet. Yeah, 3 by 5 feet, not inches. It's big. So he said, just by her looking at this picture, she became normal, and she just loved that picture of Prabhupada. You want to hear one more? In regard to Prabhupada, this is in Australia, and Western Australia, where there's just practically no people. So this devotee was going door to door, distributing books, and this old lady answered the door, and she said, "Oh, you haven't come for that book, have you?" And he said, "Well, no, I've never been here before." And she said, "Oh, good, because I love that book." She brought him in there and saw the picture of Prabhupada. She said, "You know, I can't read anymore, but just looking at this person's face just makes me feel so good. He's by my bed all the time. He just makes me feel so good." So you can't take the book.
I got a quick one. Something to share. I was at a darshan, and you were saying how, and it wasn't artifice. Prabhu was feeling, how he could have. And sometimes he says, I met my spiritual master. I was a young householder. I could have joined then. I could have done so much, but I was married. I had my obligations, and so Prabhu was talking about, how he'd wasted time. And then he sat back and he leaned back and he thought, he said, "But better late than never."
Yeah. Yeah, the appearance of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and for those who are, of course, Srila Prabhupada's everyone's Shiksha Guru, but those who are not direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada means grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada. The appearance of the spiritual master, of course, out of the two, Vani and Vapu, Vani Seva, or serving the orders of the spiritual master, is more important. But the appearance of great devotees of the spiritual master is also important. Like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Nectar Devotion, it says that devotees could actually bless people, means great devotees could bless people, just by their glance. It's interesting. By their glance and also by their good wishes. So there's some special Shakti there. I was just thinking, you got, specifically, I'm thinking about just who kind of popped in my mind was what's his name? Parameshvara Prabhu. He just happened to come in my mind, but he's a book distributor, and he's got a lot of kind of concentrated energy. So when he looks at people in books, really kind of peers into their soul, and please take this book, and it's like a real serious thing, and the person's like, all right, I'll take it here. I'm going to take this book. This is so devotees have such. They have such power, and similarly, the materialist, their face. In some cases, Prabhupada said, better don't see their face, because it actually has ill effects on one's consciousness, just seeing the face of a materialist. Of course, in previous times, sometimes they would see and they'd hop in the Ganga, anyways, but people could sense, like these two stories that you gave, people could sense the power of something like Srila Prabhupada just by seeing the picture, Yeah. So does anybody have any other comments or? Yes. I have nothing about Prabhupada sleeping too, but after
you go. Yeah, you go.
you.
Well, anyway, Shama Sundar tells a story in his book, and I heard him tell it too personally, that he was riding in a train in India with Prabhupada, and there were so many issues, Prabhupada said spiritual movement in the material world, difficult conception. I mean, there's going to be issues. I mean, you have to expect that. So they were, who to go here and how to solve this and what about this problem and that problem, and about 5 or 6 different threads. And it got late at night, and then Prabhupada said, all right, let's take rest. So Shama Sundar was sleeping on the floor, with some padding in the train, and Prabhupada was on the berth there. And he said about an hour and a half later, he said he even heard, because Prabhupada sometimes snored very softly, very sweet, soft snore. So Prabhupada was asleep. And then all of a sudden Prabhupada woke up and he said, Shama Sundar, take dictation. So Shama Sundar gets splash water, he got ready to go. And Prabhupada had an answer to each of the 5 or 6 different threads. So Shama Sundar was saying, Prabhupada was lying down, but it appeared that he was working the whole thing out in his mind, because when he opened his eyes and sat up again, he had the whole thing. So he's, you can't just tabulate, they're sleeping and they're, dreaming about. Although one time I was at a darshan, a young lady asked Prabhupada, what do you dream about? When you're sleeping, what do you dream about? And Prabhupada said, I like to see what is in Krishna's lunchbox. You unpack that one. So they're not in normal states. It may appear to be a normal state, but they're really not in a normal, a mundane, I should say, state.
Yeah. Yeah, there was... Krishna Goswami was asking Prabhupada about sleep and how to reduce it. Now, of course, we have to be careful about reducing sleep because we want any zombie Hare Krishnas out there, right? Krishna unconscious, right? Out on books, because as we were discussing some time ago, part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army. So, for example, we're out on Harinam, we're out on book distribution or something, and if we're half asleep or whatever, half dead or something out there, when bullets are shooting and it's a war, you could be shot down, right? In other words, mind can be overcome by illusion. So if we get proper rest, it's important. So, but anyways, about reducing sleep, Tamal Krishna Goswami was asking Prabhupada how to do that. How do you reduce sleep? And then Srila Prabhupada said, that requires practice. He says you have to practice. So, for example, sometimes people think, I can't wake up so early. This is really early. How am I supposed to get up and come to Mangalarti or get up and do Mangalarti at my house? And it's but if you practice, then yes, it will be painful, in the beginning stages practicing. But then over time, the body and mind become trained, and then you're able to tolerate, and not just tolerate, just be happy like that. It's normal. So it makes sense. Anyways, he was saying that. So, and last thing about the face and this and that. To have faith in Srila Prabhupada also means to have faith in his followers. And glorifying his followers glorifies him in the sense that he transformed them. And so in that light, His Holiness Giriraj Swami, he was at for his health, a chiropractic office, and there was one little girl there, and she was I think she was the daughter of the chiropractor, the doctor, And she was very small, like, I don't know, 5, 6, and just a normal, American girl. But she would see, Giraj Swami come in and here and there to see it. He would go see her father. So then one day, the father told Giraj Swami that what his daughter said about him. And then the daughter said to the father, "Who is that? Who is this Giraj? He seems like he's a man of God, very, very, very special man." She was like 6 years old or something, but somehow she kind of like. So, anyways, is there anything on Zoom? Nope. All right. Very good.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
here.
Yes. Go ahead.
May I?
Yes.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams, and my humble obeisances to Badri Narayan Maharaj. Prabhu, my question is it that if I become a devotee, the quality of my life will change from ordinary quality to demigod quality? And if your answer is yes, can you give me a practical example, please?
Okay. Well, if we become a devotee, does our quality of life go to demigod quality? And can I give a practical example? Now, if we become a devotee, it doesn't mean that we're going to, like, hey, I became a devotee, now I'm living in opulence or something like that, or like in the heavenly planets. But it means that instead of being at the mercy of the material energy, means the hard thunderbolt mercy of the material energy, we're actually under the protection of Krishna. That's what it means to be a demigod. It means that Krishna to have the quality of a demigod. It means that Krishna is protecting us. It means if we are dependent on Krishna and we humbly call out to Krishna, then of course he doesn't have to respond, but the general principle is he'll respond. That's what it means. Whereas the demons, the asuras, they're not under the protection of Krishna. They're completely bewildered. They're lost. They're at the mercy of the material energy. So that's what it means, right? You have Durga and you have Srimati Radharani. So you have two choices. We have two choices where Srila Prabhupada spoke at Birla, the Birla family's home, and the Birla family was one of the wealthiest families of India at the time. They gave Srila Prabhupada they gave Mrs. Birla a list of topics to choose from. So they're saying, what do you want Prabhupada to speak on? So she chose the topic, how to have a successful life. That's what she chose. And then Prabhupada came to her house, he gave a class, and he quoted a verse, Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim praktimashta, that the great souls, Mahatma, great souls, daivim praktimashta, they're under the shelter of my divine energy. That's what Krishna says. And Srila Prabhupada went on to explain that to be under the shelter of the divine energy, this is referring to Srimati Radharani, under her protection. And you have, right, Srimati Radharani, she's holding her hand up like this, a blessing, do not worry, do not fear, I'm going to protect you. And then Srila Prabhupada went on to go to explain that that's a choice. We could be under the shelter of the divine energy, or we could be under the shelter of Durga. And Srila Prabhupada went to explain that she's riding on her, what is it, lion? Tiger. Yeah, she's riding on her tiger, and she's got her trident, right, with the 3 prongs. These are the 3-fold miseries of material existence. And she's always jabbing the living entities, suffering, right? So that's what Srila Prabhupada said. So if we engage in devotional service, then we're under the shelter, that very, nice, loving shelter, but otherwise, merciful otherwise. So anyways, I hope that satisfies you to a degree.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, if I may say it, as to be expected, better than satisfying, brilliant answer to my question, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Example is Prahlad Maharaj. So many examples, right? Which tomorrow's verse is 524:4. So, and it looks like the biggest purport coming up after that 4 is about Prahlad Maharaj. But anyways.